Hello and welcome to another episode of our Midweek conversation at First Baptist Sweetwater, where we strive to be the first responders of God's love. My name is Jerry Hendricks, and I'm with my friend and yours, Teek Hamilton. Hello, Teek.
Hey, Jerry.
How are you this afternoon?
I'm great.
You know why you're great, Teek?
No.
You just anticipate the storms that are blowing in.
I do. They're coming in. Yeah, I'm going to have to put the top on the Jeep.
You're going to have to get ready, man.
It's a very sad day. I'll send you a picture later of how I'm pretty sure I'm going to feel once the top's on.
That's the real transition right there, when you have to put the top of your Jeep back on.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for the rain, I probably wouldn't do it. I can stand with a little bit of cold.
Yeah.
But
well,
the rain, I don't want to get rained on.
Apparently that's what's going to be happening here in the next few days, and as well as starting up our programming on Wednesday.
Yes, and I'm excited about that in so many ways. But that whole thing about like weather changing, full moon, that's real when it comes to kids. And of course, our first Wednesday back, there's a weather change.
Well, and things will be a little different when they get back here.
They will be. We're definitely having to make some adjustments with what we're doing upstairs with the whole, we want to keep people safe, love your neighbor. But at the same time, our theme is better together for the semester. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I don't know how you would advise me to prepare myself. I mean, I'm still excited about it, but I love Wednesday nights.
Well, here's what made me really excited. There's a couple people who have heard that we're going to do better together. I got a text Sunday from one of our students, Cheyenne Moorhead, and she said, I made this for the youth room since our theme is better together this week. And she had done like handprints, and then in the space of the handprint, she'd done better together. And it's on a canvas, and it looks outstanding.
Way to go, Cheyenne.
So that kind of energizes you when you know that there's other people who are getting excited about it. Sometimes I think maybe it's just us getting excited.
Right.
But she's one of our freshmen this year. So
that is great.
That's really cool. I'm excited about that. And it gets the art side of things in. We've talked a lot about, over the years, about how art needs to still be part of the church and using that, and she's doing it without even being asked. So I was excited.
Yeah, that's great when people start to understand that. And, we work off themes a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
One of our themes is Love First.
Right.
Thanks for wearing the T-shirt.
Gotcha.
But
there's a reason the theme is Love First, right?
Yes, that's our mission.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. So we started trying to really looking for a word or a phrase or whatever that kind of captured what we wanted to represent us at First Baptist Sweetwater. And through that process, just kind of came up with that pairing of words.
Right.
We've done a couple of series on it, and then it's really the one that really kind of is that place where we come back to, and it helps refocus us.
Right.
The way we describe it is the way that I described it in the introduction, in the intro that I've used over the last few weeks on the podcast. That we want to be the first responders of God's love, and the story behind that was that first responders don't run away from a crisis,
right,
but rather they run toward the crisis.
Right.
And we want to be able to be, as disciples of Christ here at First Baptist Sweetwater, we want to run toward the needs that are present in the world.
There's such great imagery with that, with just that statement, first responders of God's love.
Right.
There's great imagery there, and you can't hear that and not think about it and how that applies to your life as a follower of Christ. Or at least I hope you can.
Well, and I think that we have a greater understanding that phrase has, come front and center for us over the last several years, and so we kind of understand it in terms of the roles of people, even post 9/11 and pandemic.
Right. We
still understand that there's those people that are going to be on the front lines of helping others, and so really good, a positive image, I think, for the church that's kind of where we want to find ourselves on a regular basis.
Right. Yeah, I love it.
So in working through that, a few times a year, we come back and talk about this theme. We use different scriptures for that. This Sunday, I'll be speaking from 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter, as it's known. Mm-hmm. And it is the first time here, even though I've preached 2 full series and other messages on this theme of love first, I've never preached from 1 Corinthians.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah, I know.
5 years in.
I'm sure I probably, if I go back and look at my notes, had certain references to it.
Right.
but a lot of what I have used to date are been passages from 1 John, and then also stories from Jesus' ministry that demonstrated that first love experience. So, in putting that together, I was on the World Wide Web.
Okay.
The internet.
Yeah, don't hear that called that very often.
Yeah, I know. And so www, that's what
Right.
that was for. And I was just looking around for one. I was probably looking for images, for graphics, to do something a little different, since this is only for one Sunday.
Right.
But I came across a hashtag of all things on another site that I found, and the hashtag said "Lead with Love."
I like that.
And I go, that's it. That's what we need to be talking about. And maybe had I saw that several years ago, that would have been the mission rather than love first. But
yeah, I like love first.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're talking. That's what we're talking about Sundays. Lead with love. Thinking about ways in our own experience of being believers in the world, in our workplaces and neighborhoods and homes, how we can respond to others and to lead with an attitude and a mindset of loving others.
You said be in the world, and I just had a conversation about in the world but not of the world, and what does that mean? I think it was on our Zoom maybe a couple Sundays ago, and about talking about that with students about what that looks like. And with love first, that's a great picture of it, because a lot of our world doesn't lead with love, isn't love first, and for the church to be love first in the world but not of the world, man, that's going to stick out. It's going to be important. And the church needs to be on the front lines of leading with love, because there's a lot of bad stuff out there that church gets blamed for, or that we bring upon ourselves in the way that we view so many things and we talk about so many things. But if we led with love, I bet that would be world changing.
Well, it would be interesting if the church were to find itself in a place where it was criticized for loving others.
Right. That would be
a long way to go, but I think we can start.
Yeah.
And start to get there. One of the words, I think it's kind of made me think of this while you're talking about your Bible study with students, that one of the words, there's a lot of words that Paul uses in 1 Corinthians 13 that are descriptive of the kind of love that he says that we ought to have for each other, for others. But he said love is patient. And as I've thought about it, a lot of times we think about the long side of relationship, of the patience that's required for us to have a healthy marriage, a healthy friendship, a healthy family, and certainly that's a part of being patient. But I think the other side of that we see and experience the challenge of love, leading with love, is being patient before the relationship is established.
Right.
And we can tend to be a little bit judgmental during periods of life.
Tend to be. Okay.
Well, and
I was about to say, I feel like I lean towards that way too often.
Well, and the thing about social media is everybody automatically becomes an expert,
right?
Even though it's just an opinion,
right?
And so it's hard to give people a long leash of patience in developing a relationship, with the hope that you might be able to share Christ with them through something that you're doing.
Right, and there's so much on that aspect of patience. With Paul in Galatians, fruit of the Spirit, God gives you patience. That's what is supposed to be evidence in your life. And it's not just for your spouse, but it should be for everybody, like you said. I remember, and we might have already talked about this once, we've done a lot of episodes, but I remember listening to Pastor one time, and he was talking to this couple that had been married like 60, 70 years, something like that, a long time. So, well, what's the secret? And the guy said, don't get divorced. I mean, that's kind of that patience in action, that you bear with the person because that's who you're with, that's who you love, that's who you care about. And it should be so much more for us as the church, as people of God, that we bear with others. And social media brings out the worst in people sometimes, because the thought is, if I have an opinion, I put it out there, your opinion's wrong.
Right.
Because my opinion is my opinion. But love first is no longer the focus on me, it's the focus on others.
Right. And in that process of letting patience develop, one of the words that helps me most in thinking about what it means to love first or to lead with love is impulse. That I really want my first impulse in an interaction with someone. I really want that at its highest level of accountability in my life. I really want my first impulse to be love.
Right. And that's, wow.
Well, and what we're saying is that often we trade that for, we want where our first impulse is actually agreement.
Right.
Our criticism, or however it is that it starts to shake out in our life and relationships.
Or being the first one to respond. Like my impulse is to, I got to get my side heard.
Right.
As opposed to that impulse being love. That's
so this whole idea of love being patient, I believe it takes on a whole lot in our life, not just after a relation, after you're working through, the fine details of being in a relationship with someone, but it's really an attitude that we have that even helps us develop relationship.
Right.
And so that thinking that first impulse, one of the things that I've done because of these series and because of the mission here is that often my prayer is about that impulse. That as I start the day, that's really I want it to be on many days in my life. I wish I said I did it every day, but at least I want my life to run through that filter of that impulse of love toward people, and because I want people to measure up to my expectations a lot. That's what I fall guilty of.
Right.
And rather than giving some patience and letting that impulse work its way into a developing relationship.
The thing that just keeps running through my mind is what you said at the very first. How great would it be if we were criticized for loving too much or loving first? Yeah. I love that idea of that's what I want to be criticized for. You gave them too much leeway. You love them too much. You gave them too much grace.
Well, and the hard story on that from Jesus' life was the woman caught in adultery. The first message that I did on love first, that was the text that I used. Because I think even in our cultural world today, when you look at that and you read that experience, it is against everything in you. There's no impulse in that situation, humanly, where you go, I love this woman.
Right. Yeah. It's so easy to join into the crowd there, even in the silent, to be a silent one. Maybe you don't pick up a stone, but you still stand there in judgment and silence, and you don't go to the defense. Right.
So, if you want to jump into a story or scripture that really challenges this idea of leading with love, that's, to me, there's others, and you may find one that you like better, but to me, that's the one that really sets the stage for how difficult it is and how challenging it is to us, but also this picture that we get of Jesus demonstrating this for us.
Right.
That this is what this would look like.
And put any circumstance, any situation in that place.
Right.
It might be that maybe you're a little more lenient than some people on that idea of sin that's happening there. Put anything you want in there, that thing that makes you bristle, put that in there, and then realize that that's tough.
Yeah, and that's why I say is that you're not that you're not accountable for sin.
Right.
I mean that he ultimately he addressed that.
He said, "Go and sin no more."
He took care of that, but that wasn't his first impulse.
Right.
His first impulse was compassion.
Right, and really having compassion on the people that were there also, because he helped them to see how they were the woman also, in a sense.
Yeah.
Whoever has no sin can cast the first stone, and they really have to look at themselves. So that's compassion in another way, I guess.
Right. I reread the story this week, and remember, it says that he went down, he started writing in the dirt,
right.
And then he said, "Those without sin cast the first stone," and then he returned to writing in the dirt. I mean, it's hard to imagine the emotion of that moment, what that would have been like, and the impulsive nature that we might have. Had we been in his shoes, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what how you show any kind of I don't know if it's showing restraint. I really don't know what that is, but it's something that's deep and it's driven out of love and
Yeah.
compassion for someone. The other thing is that Paul says that when we understand love, that we honor others, we don't dishonor them. And I think that's another part, sort of putting ourselves in current culture on alert, if we can, during a political season, pandemic attitudes, and everything else that we're want to be divisive over. Understanding that we really want to honor other people, and to not love them and not care for them is dishonoring them. So a couple of big challenges for us as we think about this text, what it means to the church and what it means to each of us. And we'll be bringing back Bible study this Sunday, as well as having worship live stream and in person here. And it ought to be a good Sunday for us as we kind of see what life looks like as we regather and really dive into, once again, this message of leading with love. So we look forward to seeing you on Sunday and letting us be a part of your worship.
See ya.